Hello and welcome to the Quantum Quadcast right here in 80.7 KIGC, and we're going to go into our in-depth review of Spy. As for me, I am Johnny P, and in the studio is Mr. Nick Harris, and a little special show for you. There's only 2 Quadcasters. What? So instead of Q4, we're Q squared. And a little bit about the show. We review movies and we talk about nerdy, awesome stuff, and we just have a good time. So, Nick, let's just get in and dig it out.
All right, let's do it. Just the 2 of us, so it may get a little lonely. We don't have our female presence like usually with Kurt and Shannon. Which is dig at both of them not being here, or mostly at Kurt, but it's okay. We're going to roll with it anyway. So we saw the movie Spy this week, which is Paul Feig, I believe is how you pronounce his name. His new comedy. He's of a successful comedy filmmaker that has made The Heat and as well as Bridesmaids. So he's kind of on a little bit of a streak. This movie didn't quite, I don't think, opened as big as they thought it was going to, but still $30 million opening's not bad for a rated R comedy, I think. So,
oh, yeah, and I would suspect the budget is that much on this movie?
No,
either?
Probably not. I don't know. It might be a higher budget than most of his other movies just because it's more of an action spy genre.
Yeah.
So it looked like there was some more special effects to it and a lot more action in it than some of the other ones. But I don't know. I guess The Heat kind of had a bigger budget too, but it also had the star power of Sandra Bullock in it. So this one's resting a little more on the shoulders of Melissa McCarthy.
And we'll figure out if she pulled it off.
All right, well, let's just jump right into it, John. Why don't you make your case for the film?
Well, I went into the movie with a little, not very big expectations. Normally, when it comes to comedies, you can't have much just because, it's a comedy. What do you expect? Just to laugh. And I left the movie pretty happy with it, actually. I was kind of surprised with a lot of the violence that was in it, and that was something that kind of threw me off because normally when comedies have, just kind of grotesque violence almost, it's kind of jarring because you're thinking, oh, this is supposed to be funny and not gory or anything. And, there were some scenes where I was kind of caught off guard, like, oh, my gosh, that was pretty intense.
Did that take you out, or did you like it?
I liked it. I'm a sick person, so I like a lot of violence in my comedies.
Okay. Well, I unfairly saw the rated R preview where it gave that first violent thing that kind of happens away.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish I hadn't watched that, but it did kind of better sell me on the movie,
and I saw it. I saw that rated R, the Red Band trailer too, and it was like only one scene, and I was like, oh wow, holy crap! But that was kind of thing like, oh, maybe it was just for that scene, but it took off a couple times in the movie where I was like, wow, there's more violence in this movie than I expected. So I was still surprised. Yeah, and I absolutely, I don't know, whenever you can use hardcore violence in a comedy, it usually, for me, it pays off. I mean, it's like The Kingsman. They used a lot of pretty hardcore violence in that movie, and it paid off for me, and I thought that was kind of part of the comedy element.
Yeah, this felt a lot like the movie Your Highness, I think, for me, where there's kind of that it's a melting of 2 genres together of kind of action. That one was more fantasy, where this one's spy realm.
Yeah.
But it's a hard R comedy that uses a lot of violence in there with it, and I kind of dig that too, just because I grew up with a lot of adult-centered movies when I was a kid, I guess, and more adult comedies and stuff. So I enjoyed it. But tell me more about your experience with the film here and kind of your overall read on it, John.
Well, and then also it was kind of the pacing also kind of got me off because that was something where I'm used to Paul Feig movies, kind of, and really rated R comedies, kind of getting off on just kicking the bucket right away and saying, all right, we're dropping as many F-bombs in the first kind of scene that we can. And they kind of did that a little bit with The Heat and I think Bridesmaids. I'm not sure, but this one surprisingly started off a little tame. And I was actually checking the rating because I was surprised because I'm like, they only said one F word, so I'm like, well, they can get away with that in a PG-13 movie, and and so that's where I was like, oh, okay. And then usually about almost halfway through the movie is when it kind of, usually when Jason Statham's character was introduced is kind of where it's like, there's the hard R we were looking for. So that was kind of a surprising thing for me, was just the light first half of the movie where not a lot was going on. And that's language-wise, comedy-wise, and just really event-wise. It's just kind of setting up what's going on in the agency that she's working at.
I kind of felt the same way. I was a little underwhelmed, I think, by the first part of it. I'm very easy on comedies, I guess. I'm not a huge comedy connoisseur. I like comedies. I don't very often go to see them in the theater. Just I don't know. To me, it's just if I'm going to spend the money, I want to see something that seems,
Something that's going to wow you.
I guess.
Like
I don't
something
know.
that you're actually paying for. That's you're going to get your money's worth almost.
Yeah, I think the only reason I was excited about this one is because it goes over into the action genre a little bit and the spy genre, especially being a huge Bond fan. I absolutely loved the Kingsman earlier this year because it really played off of Bond, and I was kind of looking forward to that tie into this movie too.
And it kind of was, I would say, a little bit more tame. I mean, the action element didn't. There wasn't much. Like it was a little bit. It's more I think they supplemented the action element for the violence and the language, really.
Yeah, like I was saying, I'm easy on comedy, so I laughed a lot at the first I don't know if it was maybe the third of the film.
Yeah.
Where it was a little slower. Not that it was slower. I felt it was a little bit disjointed. There was a lot of scenes where they would cut from like the analysts in the danger room. I don't know what you call it, where they've got all their computer stuff.
The war
set up.
room or whatever.
War room is what I was looking for. And then it would just kind of almost jump cut to the director's office, and then jump cut to another situation where they're at the bar, and then jump cut back in there again. I thought it was very. It was hard to the film took a while to kind of get into a flow. I don't know if it ever totally did that, but it seemed like they had almost like a script where you've got a bunch of good ideas, but not really a strong story to tie it together.
Well, I think the film kind of turned after really the whole reveal of not the reveal, but almost
don't give away spoilers.
I mean, we're not in spoilers yet, but like I said, the film kind of turned towards the end, and I think it was just kind of disjointed, but they kind of needed that almost disjointedness. Granted, it wasn't that great of storytelling, but they needed it to really kind of set up the second half. Because if you really didn't have it, that first half where it's kind of explaining her character, who she is, and why she's going to become a spy, then really the second half kind of makes no sense. And and also the second half really just I would think lose its humor, because now you're kind of seeing how this chick who's just this kind of mild-mannered little office person just goes completely bat crap crazy towards the end of the movie.
Well, yeah, I'm a little split on it because, one, I think it showed a bit of a range on Feig and McCarthy for doing something a little bit outside of what they usually do. Maybe it's not for McCarthy because I haven't seen her TV show, which I've heard is pretty tame, and she plays pretty straight. So maybe that's something she does. I don't watch that show. But for me, I guess I'm waiting for the foul-mouthed, rapid-fire comebacks and insults that are widely displayed in the last at least half of the film, and is kind of what she did also in The Heat, and what I really enjoy watching. So on one end, I can see where you're coming from, where I kind of respect it for setting up the story. I just thought that setup was a bit just disjointed, and I don't think it was overly bad. I still laughed throughout and thought there were some good scenes, and they did set up the story, but I guess I just didn't have as much fun until there's a certain point in this movie where you get definitely a switch is flipped, and all of a sudden we're in a hard R film.
Oh yeah,
like Melissa McCarthy is firing on all cylinders of just down and dirty.
Oh yeah, well I was even
insult comedy. So and that's where I really started to get into this movie.
No, and I was even kind of I mean, granted I thought it needed it in the film, but I think that kind of made the anticipation for the hard R part of the movie more appreciated, I guess, because it started off so tame, and then once you got into actually the part where she's just firing on all cylinders, it becomes almost more enjoyable because you're like, this is the MacArthur we were waiting for, It's like she's holding us back, like the movie's holding us back a little bit, and now we're like, all right, like
McCarthy, not MacArthur.
Did I say McCarthy? I said McCarthy.
You did say. No,
I did say McCarthy.
All right, maybe it sounded like MacArthur.
Yeah, okay, not like Steve Anal or Amel. Sorry, that's what it was. But what about the other character in the movie besides McCarthy, not MacArthur? What about Statham? How do you feel his presence was in this movie? Do you think he was Do you think he was able to kind of go toe to toe? I wouldn't say toe to toe, but like kind of stand up with McCarthy, or nice picture? I was looking at that. I was like, I hope we show this. Or do you think he was kind of just playing his normal self and really just being just a Jason
Well,
Statham.
I thought he was kind of playing himself. Now, I'm a big Statham fan, being an action fan. That's kind of my bread and butter is the action genre. So that was one of the exciting things for me because this is the first time, I think, on a couple of levels. It's kind of the first time I think he's done comedy. I guess we can kind of argue that on the, I just forgot the Crank films.
Yeah.
Crank 2 is probably pretty much a comedy, but so he's got some chops there. At least understands it. I was hoping a little more out of this. I think I'd been kind of talked up, and I'd heard a lot of reviews and a lot of people talking about how Jason Statham is definitely like the breakout performance in the movie. So I was really expecting a lot more. I didn't think they did a whole lot with it. I don't know if that's Statham's fault or if it's Feig's, because I don't think his jokes were really written that well.
I don't know, because I'm going to take the opposite side, because I thought he was fan-friggin-tastic in the movie. I mean, I think that's kind of what made his character more funny, was he was just acting like himself, but just more crazy. I mean, there was so many times where it kind of got a little annoying, but I was still kind of laughing because she just kept saying, "Tone it down, like calm down," like right when he said like "you effing T" or whatever, and and like I was like, okay, here he is, and then like the whole scene where he's talking about how he just he went through all this crap, like he's like, I flew out of a burning car, and I was the burning person or whatever.
Yeah, I think that was the problem though, because I felt like those jokes have been done before in other movies. I don't know. Like I've heard those jokes before, like taking the tough guy and making him be super tough and play it straight has already been done at least a couple times by The Rock. But
yeah, that's true. Well, even Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black, like that's kind of how they played that character. I don't know. I just thought I honestly liked how he kind of came off in this movie, where even to the point where it seemed like Feig was writing his character to be like, we know you're a big action star, but we're going to take all this away from you. Like, we will set you up for action pieces, but we're not going to showcase you in them. I mean, there was seriously, towards the end of the movie, there was a part where I'm like, oh, Statham's actually going to kick some butt now, and just completely gets shut down. And I just laughed so hard because I'm like, this movie's like they're setting him up, and he's just completely just being shut down for to become an action star, and he's not. So
yeah, he's got like one good fight scene. To me, the biggest joke in the film is the picture below me here, where he shows up in the '70s mustache and hair.
Yeah,
I thought was a pretty good gag with him. I thought they were going to do a little bit more with him and make him funnier for being kind of, because I think one of the things about Statham is just he's got that on-screen presence.
Yeah,
he's got that classic action movie kind of Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, Schwarzenegger kind of screen presence. That's why it's not like he's probably the greatest actor in the world, but he's got enough charisma on screen that makes you want to watch his movies, and he's kind of made a career out of that. So I kind of wanted to see them stretch his range a little bit and see what he would do under a better writer. This is probably the best writer he's ever worked with.
Yeah,
I was trying to think back. I mean, he had more parts, and probably, we could arguably talk about his first couple of films with Guy Ritchie, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and Snatch. Weren't really action movies for him, and was some probably better writing. But since then, he's done a never-ending string of just anywhere from like low C level action movies to maybe high B. I don't feel like he's ever broke into an A list, unless you consider the
Expendables.
Well,
those are not
I
A-list
don't.
whatsoever.
I like them.
Okay.
I like those movies, but I don't consider them A list or the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Nah.
I don't really consider
well, and he
that
wasn't
A-list either.
Even
So,
if that was, he was a subplot character, not subplot. Sorry, he was a supporting character in the movie. He wasn't a main leading character.
Sure, and he was a supporting character in this, but I feel like he's the main supporting character to Melissa McCarthy. I think he got second billing in the film, so to me, this is kind of his biggest break into maybe getting into the A-list. It's a big summer movie. He's a co-star. It's a comedy. It's from a director and writer who's had a highly acclaimed hit before. This movie's highly acclaimed. It's got a very high Rotten Tomato score. So to me,
which I'm very surprised.
This was Statham's biggest shot at breaking into the mainstream yet. So I kind of like that. I just wish that it would have been more based off of him and his performance rather than
Feig
just him playing it straight as the crazy action guy.
Well, do you want him to become how Vin Diesel kind of started screwing over his career by saying, like, I'm going to be this big family guy that's a Marine, but really I take care of kids. Like, do you really want to see Statham like that? Because I know I do not. Like,
No, I mean he's definitely done his share of bad action movies. So don't get me wrong. I mean he's not really choosy. I think he's been pretty straight on the fact that he's just going to do action films, no matter what the quality. And I've even read interviews with him where he talks about, sometimes you show up and you can tell it's going to be good, and sometimes you show up and it's a U-ball film and it's going to be bad or something.
Hey,
so,
it's a paycheck, I guess, right?
Yeah,
so
I
I guess
guess
that's what he's seeing it as. I mean, he's
but,
not a.
what did you think about the other co-stars of the film, like Rose Byrne and I just forgot his name. I'm sorry. He's on screen right now. He plays
Jude
the
Law.
Jude Law. He plays the
James
Bond kind of character, but he didn't have his accent. So I was I guess because he was working for the CIA.
Yeah, but no, because even for the CIA, they had the Scottish chick that had an accent. She was working for the CIA.
That's true.
The tall Big Bird chick or whatever her name is.
Yeah. That's true. So
And,
I don't really know, I guess. So I kind of thought, and I was listening to the film, and I'm like, he doesn't have his accent. I figured they'd be making him go for like the James Bond character, but yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe it's just because Statham's in the film and overshadowing him a little bit. I didn't feel like he really stood out that much, and I like Jude Law, and was kind of looking forward to him making some plays on Bond. He gets a couple of jokes early on, but I didn't feel like they did a whole lot with him. Rose
Well,
Byrne,
he was kind of just almost a straight edge character. Like they really.
It's true.
I feel like there wasn't a much comedy element for him whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, he was just pretty straight edge. Like he was. He reminded me of the Irish or Welsh cop in Bridesmaids. Where he just kind of played. He maybe had some funny elements, but he really kind of played it straight. He was kind of the moral ground, or what I wouldn't say moral ground, but the kind of stability, I guess, of the film. And Rose Byrne, is that her name, right? Rose Byrne. I thought, I don't know what I thought about her performance. It was just she didn't really.
I think she seemed like she brought 100%. She's done some pretty high-profile comedies in the last couple of years, and she's also in Bridesmaids. I just thought she played a similar kind of character to that one, but she didn't have the story arc she did in Bridesmaids. But I don't know. She kind of delivers it every time. She really looked like she was having fun. I enjoyed her a lot in this film, and she just got to be so mean.
That was kind of funny.
I think my biggest probably thing here talking about this movie, my biggest letdown in this movie was probably Feig, I guess. And not saying that was a huge letdown.
You didn't like his cameo?
He was in the movie?
I have no idea. I was just saying.
No.
He usually cameos in his
usually
movies,
his
so.
writing, I just absolutely adore his comedy, and there was glimpses of it in this movie. I just thought the overall story arcs for all the characters fell a little flat. They did kind of, I probably shouldn't talk about it until we do spoilers, but there's kind of a payoff at the end of Rose Byrne's character's arc that I thought was a little half-baked and was like, really? There's a moment with that. We can talk about it a little bit later here in spoilers. But otherwise, I think she gave a pretty good performance. And this has been a pretty good comedy couple of years for her, I guess.
Well, she was in Bridesmaids. I don't know the other film she was in too.
With Seth Rogen, where they live next to the frat house.
Yep. Neighbors,
yeah.
And then she was also in Age of Ultron. She was the creepy instructor lady from Black Widow's Dream. I just realized that.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she was. So,
yeah, interesting.
Because that's where I was like, where is she from? Like, and then I was like, oh yeah, she's from Bridesmaids. He was like, she's from Avengers? What? So that's my nerdiness popping out right there. But
I don't know. Well, let's jump back to Melissa McCarthy maybe.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about her performance and kind of where it sits for you. I'll let you kind of go first. Maybe talk a little bit about what you think of her career-wise and just how you think she's growing as a performer. I think there's a lot of I spend a lot of time in online forums arguing movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, you blarguing
we'll call it
with
debating,
people?
blarguing, yeah, whatever we want to call it. But there's a lot of hate for her online. People that get really upset about her, don't think she's funny, call her a one-note comedian, always plays the same character, and really is not growing anywhere.
Which I don't understand, because you can say the same thing for John Belushi, you can say the same thing for Chris Farley, and you know what? Those people freaking love those two. Why? Maybe is it because they're dudes, or do people just not like funny chicks? Is that the thing? Because I think she's absolutely hilarious. Like I enjoy watching her because she just makes me laugh because I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's funny because it's not because she uses her weight as a joke. She uses pretty much what she's written and she just can deliver it really well.
Well, that's kind of where I fall in it too. I really enjoy her performances from her kind of breakout role in Bridesmaids, where she played a very odd character that was a standout in a film full of kind of higher profile comedians. Or
Well,
whatever,
especially
so.
like SNL, like popular SNL comedians,
Yeah, right.
cast members.
But
yeah.
I've been hearing a lot that she's a one-note comedian. She is only funny because her only jokes are usually based on her weight. But thinking back, I started to kind of try to think back to when does she use her weight as a joke? I
I
mean,
don't.
maybe that's a little bit of the gimmick of this film, Spy. I don't think they ever really use it in the heat. There's maybe some physical gags she does that might be funnier because she's a little heavier of a lady. But I think
But
most of the
even
time
then,
for me anyway, what I enjoy about her performances is that rapid fire kind of dialogue that
yeah,
she delivers and the way she'll just dismantle characters.
yeah.
Like in this film, there's a Swedish guy. Was he Swedish?
He's Italian.
No. The guy that is Rose Byrne's like henchman.
Oh yes, the
And
Swedish.
she
Yes,
just dismantles this guy mentally and physically and verbally, and then
and
he's
within
in the
minutes,
film.
like
No spoilers, but
yeah,
he is pretty much only in the film just for her to be mean to.
yeah, and it's pretty
And
great.
I loved it, and that has nothing to do with her weight. So I think
No.
there's plenty
Well,
of
even in
jokes.
other films, like that's like even non-Paul Feig films that she's in, there's no real reference to her weight. She just is that rapid firing. Just it's that comedy. She just has that boom, 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 boom out the door, and then yeah, like you said, dismantles people within seconds of just completely just belligerent, just destroys them. And like in this movie, like if you want to make maybe there are some if you want to call them fat jokes, whatever, is when they showed her like entrance video to the CIA where she's like kicking butt all over the place, and you just see this like kind of small portly woman just running around and just throwing people through walls and shooting him and stuff. And
Yeah,
but
see,
like
I
to
don't
me,
even
I'm
think-
like,
yeah, I suppose the laughs there are kind of because of her size. And that
but
she's
even
like
then,
that
it's
nimble,
not
but
really, it's not really
it's not
so
at the
much
detriment to it.
Yeah.
It's not like the Chris Farley jokes where he used to he'd be next to Swayze with his shirt off or something, trying to be a Chippendales dancer or
Chippendales.
something.
Usually with like Farley, it was always either if it wasn't a fat joke, it was because he's stupid.
Yeah.
Or like this super shy guy. I mean,
Yeah, so I think it's interesting in this movie. She's very competent. She's very good at being a desk jockey, and then you find out later that she's very good at the field work too. And then as the film grows, that's kind of her arc a little bit, is how she kind of comes into her own and starts to remember that she is a good field agent.
Oh, yeah.
and against the odds, she's good. So I kind of like that element of it too, that they don't really play her off as the bumbling fool. I feel like this movie draws a lot of comparisons to the Get Smart movie, which I really enjoyed that movie quite a bit too. But I feel like in that one they went the route that I thought this one probably would, where Steve Carell played the bumbling idiot, and
well, he pretty much played him. He pretty much played Michael Scott. That's
kind of
essentially what he did.
And that's what that character was, I'm sure, on the show too.
Yeah.
But in this one, I was kind of surprised by the fact that she wasn't the bumbling spy that just falls into it. And I'm kind of glad they didn't, because that's kind of something that's been done a million times anyway by Jackie Chan and Mr. Bean even doing it. So, but maybe we should jump into spoilers here.
Spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone. All right.
It's not great with just two of us, but it's good enough.
No, yeah, that's good enough.
It's good
I think
enough.
it's usually just the two of us anyway, and the other two staring at us like you morons.
Well,
But
it's all good.
Yeah, I wanted to jump back to the Swedish guy then that
Yes.
he kind of just comes into the film to be harassed verbally and physically by Melissa McCarthy, and then just unceremoniously
Just
gunned out in the street.
Destroyed.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty funny in itself. So
Well, and that's the violence that really got. Because I was thinking like, okay, they got this guy, and I'm like, hopefully he sticks around so she can just kind of boss him around and make him feel horrible, But then like, I don't know. I was actually I was sad. It was bittersweet because I wanted him to be around so she can kind of just destroy him some more. But also,
Yeah.
I was like, how he just got just car, drive by, just GTA hardcore, just blood all over the place. I was like, oh my gosh! Like I actually kind of laughed at that, and I thought it was pretty funny. So to me, I was like, it was a decent payoff for his death. I mean, it was kind of worth it.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. I really liked the when the switch gets flipped, which is basically they're on an airplane and they're heading to another country. She's been trying to play it off as she's kind of this
just
bumbling
she's
tourist,
a tourist.
that fell in this situation, and then all of a sudden she flips the switch and she's her security agent hired by her father or whatever, and she just owns it, and there's a line in there where Rose Byrne's been putting her down saying she looks like her mother or whatever.
Just
she shows a picture
grotesque.
of this grotesque mother. And McCarthy has a line there where she's like, you know what, I don't look anything like that beast. And I just lost it.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
That's probably my favorite line of the whole movie, and that whole sequence, I think, is one of the strongest sequences of the movie where they use that kind of rapid-fire hit.
Yeah.
Or rapid-fire wit mixed with some physical humor, and they even throw in the lowbrow humor, because I love the scene where she keeps dipping the plane so the dead guys squish Rose Byrne, and then,
my gosh, yeah,
they're farting and dying, and there's gases coming out everywhere. And it's
I forgot about that.
A riot of a scene. So it was one of those scenes that I think does get forgotten about because it's right in the middle of the film, but I think that was one of the strongest elements where the best elements of this film come together to make a really outstanding scene. I don't feel like they did that on every scene. It seems like there's a lot of scenes where they just didn't know what to do, and I think the final climax of this scene is one of those, where they all kind of gather at a house and somewhere in Europe and
somewhere in Rome or whatever, and
Bobby I think it's Bobby Carnival comes in. He's the bad guy. You haven't really even seen him much the entire movie, which I think is a waste.
Which is also weird because they weren't really setting him up to be the villain, really. Like, he was just kind of a side character. Maybe that was part of the twist or whatnot, but he really had no presence. So when the twist happened, I didn't really care. It wasn't like, whoa, is this dude not the other dude? And that's kind of where I thought that was a little bit. I thought it was a little lazy because I didn't really care for him being the villain. The twist at the end where he's actually the main dude. I'm like, oh. Well, he wasn't even a presence to begin with to make you think that.
I was kind of excited. I had just been watching the third season of Boardwalk Empire, and he plays the bad guy on that season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd seen him on other things like Chef, and he's played a lot of side roles where he plays, the really goofy Italian, crazy guy or something that's the wacky friend in a lot of things. So I didn't think much about him when he showed up in Boardwalk Empire, but he kind of really blew me away in there with this very strange and even scary performance as this kind of psychotic gangster in Boardwalk Empire. So I was really excited to see what they did here, if they kind of spun that same kind of character into something, even more humorous. But I felt like he just, he didn't get to do much.
He didn't do much.
He played it straight. Yeah. And I don't know that's his fault. Again, this kind of falls back to my biggest complaint with the film, that I think this is one of the weaker efforts from Paul Feig. Yeah. And not saying that that's a huge insult to the guy, because really I think his output thus far has been fantastic. So
I think some of the comedies he's put out have been better than majority of the popular comedies that have been put out within 5 years.
I don't know that that's the most popular opinion, at least on the internet, but
I mean, to me, I'm just there hasn't been that
feel
many
free to go ahead and leave us comments.
Yes,
in the,
please.
Comment
creative
section.
criticism.
We love to debate. So you'll see me show up there often.
Yes.
But anyway, I just thought it was a little bit of a weaker ending to it. I was hoping for some more action sequences, since it is kind of a spy movie. I enjoyed. I think McCarthy gets the best fight scene of the movie.
Well, I feel like she only had
a guy like Statham, who's a fight scene guy, basically. I thought she got the best fight scene with in this picture you see below here. I really enjoyed it. I thought Feig did some cool slow-mo stuff with it, and just the fact that that McCarthy's kind of just a complete killing machine in this movie, and they play that down a lot. I kind of like and think is funny too, and just a funny fight scene to see a woman go for another woman with a groin shot. I don't think I've seen quite before either.
Well, maybe you have on the internet.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Amused me to no end, I guess. But I like when they kind of turn cliches on their head like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So the movie's kind of a big cliche turned on its head like that in the first place. So I did enjoy the movie. Just I think maybe I could have been too high expectations for it. but I think it was a mix, and maybe my expectations were a bit high, and the movie, I don't know, didn't feel like it quite delivered quite what I thought it would. But then I seem to be in the minority, as it's got like something crazy like a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes,
which
so
is kind of
like
surprising to me, just because
very adored by critics. So.
yeah, well, mainly I don't know why it's surprising to me because of just how slow the beginning is, I guess, and then it maybe just makes up for it in the second half of the film. But
yeah, it wasn't super surprising because Feig also has a highly critical darling in Bridesmaids. Strangely to me, I guess, is that the Heat's kind of the lower scored, either on the critical side of it anyway, with the critical mass, as we'll maybe call them. I have no idea. Searching
just
for
make
a
up
word.
words. That's okay.
Just critics in general.
Yeah.
I follow that quite a bit, so it was weird to me that movie had a lower score because I think that's one of his stronger efforts. But anything else in spoilers you want to talk about?
Like I said, just a lot of the violent scenes that were in the movie. I mean, like the very first one really with Jude Law, but the second one, which I think was probably the most grotesque, maybe not the most, but one of them is when she's fighting the guy and you just see her snap his ankle, and then she like kicks him off, and he like gets impaled by this. He gets impaled by this giant like rod, and then she's like, "Don't throw up, don't throw up." So like it was like violent humor, and then you have puke humor into it.
Yeah, and then you get the lowbrow. That's what I like a lot when they mix all of it kind of together: the physical, the lowbrow, and then maybe some of the dialogue-based humor. But
and like I said, I mean, I enjoyed the kind of over-the-top violence that was in it. I mean, usually when it's an R-rated comedy and they don't have over-the-top violence like that, it's understandable. But usually when they introduce it, it's so kind of off-putting. I wouldn't say off-putting. It's so it catches you off guard that it becomes even more funny because you just realize, like, I wasn't expecting this. And you're like, oh, my gosh, like, it's pretty crazy. Like I said, the real big death scene with the guy that got impaled from that, or the dude that got his throat
melted.
melted.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So she does kind of have all of the best fight scenes in the movie.
She does.
Statham gets a short one.
Statham gets like a short one that gets cut off.
A couple pretty, quick short ones that were kind of cool in the beginning. I'm sorry, I'm obsessing over that fight scenes again, but I'm a fight scene guy, so I go to a movie. I want my fight scenes. Okay, so I was happy that she got some good ones. I thought they needed a really drag out, knock down Statham fight to really. Of course he's supposed to be the crazy guy that's constantly talking himself up, but he should also be the guy that can back it up, too. At a certain
I think
point
that's
where
what makes it funny,
like,
though.
Did his arm really get torn off, and did he tie it back on? I don't know. Maybe he wasn't joking. I kind of half expected his arm to get cut off at some point.
I was expecting something more intense than him just getting knocked out by a door in the very end of the movie to happen. Like, he just gets like somehow like a razor blade just comes off and just takes his arm off.
Maybe it's just because we've seen that same gag already this summer,
I guess.
portrayed much better in Mad Max. When Nicholas Hoult has a big moment, jumps up and just gets caught by a chain and falls down.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just out of that whole action sequence.
Mediocre. Yeah.
So,
so I really I enjoyed the violence, just as weird as that sounds, and really McCarthy just kind of just bringing it, just anytime, I don't know why, I just think it's hilarious when just McCarthy just takes and just almost not physically but metaphorically disembowels a character in like 5 seconds by just the rapid fire she does. And she does that pretty well in this movie and all of her other films. But like I said, I think the thing that really kind of turned the tide for me was, in all honesty, Statham's just all the one-liners and crap that he was spouting off. And then really the violence that came out of just nowhere and kind of worked pretty good for a comedy.
Right.
So, I thought those were kind of the elements that really got me going and made me really enjoy the movie. And it was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, same here. The only thing else I would want to mention would be I'm going to mess up his name here, but Peter Serafinowicz is what it looks like anyway. But
Google it later. You guys will find out. It's okay. Just IMDb.
But he plays a surprise role in this, and he was kind of the standout performance to me in the film that I felt everybody else talked about Statham. This guy showed up, and I had no idea he was going to be in the film or who he was really. And I think he's the Greek. I think he was Greek.
He's Italian.
Film. He's Italian. Okay, so he shows up and he's just over the
top. We Italians
right from the
much
start.
dirty people.
He's just tearing around town in this crazy, car hard, not even a chase scene because it's just him driving, but he is just off the wall, and he's groping Melissa McCarthy. And I like the fact that they played it off that she doesn't even want any part of it, She's just like, no, I don't need this. Get away from me. Or if Shannon was here, she would agree about the Italian guys being gropey or something.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm like, whoa, come on now, okay?
Yeah, what?
Yeah. We Italians aren't always gropey. I'm not.
I thought he was the standout. He had a couple of lines that were just kind of slayed me. One was his, his F-bomb line where you thought he was going to say, one day I'm going to marry her, and he says, I'm going to F her instead. And,
yeah, that caught me off guard, too.
I was just like, what? Oh, my God, this guy's too much. And he's like that the whole film,
Well, even towards the end,
coming back, and he was kind of the standout for me.
Well, even towards the end where he just kind of reveals, like, I'm MI6, and he's like, or am I? And then goes into that sleazy, real Italian voice again. So, he was actually he was pretty entertaining to watch. But I thought Statham and then the violence were like the two big things that got me to really enjoy this movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like altogether we enjoyed it. So
both of us.
Kind of one of those reviews where we don't have a back and forth debate. It's just us kind of nerding out and making googly eyes over Melissa McCarthy, I guess.
It's why we reveal this at the end of it, not at the beginning, so we con you to watch it.
Yes, hopefully you watched all the way through. Kind of a long review at 35 minutes, but
it was still enjoyable.
All right, well, we'll be back. Hopefully next Wednesday we'll have a new one posted, and we'll be watching this weekend Jurassic Park. So, John, I know you're really excited about
Jurassic World, so get it right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jurassic World.
It's not Jurassic Park.
Is it Jurassic Park? Jurassic World? Like
Jurassic World.
How was the second one? The one with
Lost World Jurassic Park.
Lost World
Good
Jurassic Park.
Lord.
Yeah. So
Jurassic World, and I'm pretty excited for it. I've already seen it, so but I'm holding back anything I gotta say, and
we'll continue our terribly good segment. We've got Beautician and the Beast to watch, which we were supposed to do this week. We had a little technical snafu earlier in the week.
Meaning we really screwed up.
Yeah, it didn't get done, but anybody that's still following that one, it'll be coming on next week, which is probably nobody at this point, but it's been a little long. We'll also be doing, in that same segment, we'll be watching Fright Night coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about that. That's something that Kurt really likes and thinks is not the greatest movie, but he likes it anyway, so we'll be seeing if we agree with
majority of tween movies, so it's all good.
You can also check out our new show we launched too, which is Pinteresting Foods, which is all about Johnny P here. Taking recipes, somewhere here, cold from Pinterest and kind of using Pinterest
It's
ideas
not just
there.
me. We also have Shannon there,
Shannon
too.
Ferry's on there. I think you guys did really good. It's the first episode. It's a really short watch. Make some brookies and some other cool stuff, and check that out. It's on my YouTube page, which is NickGuyHarris, all one word. Or an easier way to find us sometimes is just to look up the Quantum Quadcast, because that will bring us up, and you can just click the link there to go to the page and watch some other good stuff there. We've got back episodes as well, so check us out. Like always, we love feedback.
Please
absolutely love
talk
feedback.
to us.
So if you want to say we're idiots or you didn't like our review or McCarthy's garbage and we don't know what we're talking about, get on there because we will actively engage you in that, and we have fun doing it. So please do. But that's all we got this week on the Quantum Quadcast.
And as always, thank you for listening and watching, actually, now. And so I think we forked it really good. And such a horrible thing, but we stuck a fork, so we forked it. As always, thank you for watching the Quantum Quadcast. Peace out.
Yep.